Where the Salt Remembers. Chapter 1. The Fairy. The scandal did not arrive with shouting or sirens. It arrived quietly, threaded through the salt-heavy wind, slipping beneath shutters and into kitchens still smelling of coffee and sleep. The village had always been a place where secrets drowned slowly, weighed down by tradition and tide. But this secret floated, buoyed by anticipation. By the time the sun struck the harbor's wet stones that Tuesday morning, every soul who pretended not to care already knew. The man who was never supposed to return had stepped off the ferry. The church bells confirmed it. They trembled, ringing off-key, as if startled by their own urgency. Housewives paused mid-rinse, fishermen looked up from tangled nets, and old men who had not risen quickly in years shuffled toward windows. Children were shooed indoors. Curtains twitched like startled wings. Only 3 people understood why the bells shook. Elena felt the vibration through the earth before she heard the sound. She knelt in the garden, bare knees pressing into damp soil, hands deep in rosemary and guilt. The scent always reminded her of him, of hands brushing hers in this same garden, of whispered plans beneath the fig tree, of promises made too young and too fiercely. The bells quivered again. Her heartbeat stuttered and she lifted her head. The ferry had docked. A lone figure stood at the railing unmoving, coat dark as ink against the pale morning. Even from this distance she recognized the posture, the stubborn tilt of the chin, the quiet defiance of someone who refused to bow to what had broken him. Adrian. The name struck her like a wave. Cold, unavoidable, heavy with everything unfinished. He had promised never to return. She had promised to forget him. And she had promised, God forgive her, to marry someone else. The bells fell silent. Only the sea continued to speak. Inside the house, Marcus set the breakfast table with precision bordering on ritual. Knife aligned with fork. Spoon parallel. Napkins folded sharply, corners crisp. Order calmed him. It created walls nothing could penetrate. He believed a controlled environment produced a controlled life. The bells shattered that illusion. His hand froze, silverware clinking softly against porcelain. Without a word, he crossed the room and pulled aside the curtain. Harbor. Ferry. A dark coat. A man standing alone. Recognition tightened his jaw. Adrian. A humorless smile curved Marcus's lips. So the ghost remembers the way home. He did not call out to Elena. He did not ask if she knew. Instead, he let the curtain fall, closing the view with the finality of a slammed door. But the past had already seeped under the threshold. Adrian walked through the village like a man retracing the steps of a crime. People parted, not out of respect, but out of fear that association might taint them. He had left destruction before. A ruined partnership, a shattered engagement, a heart that everyone believed belonged to Elena. Only one of those hearts had truly been his. He paused when the path to the cliff came into view. Wind whipped his coat open, revealing the pale scar cutting across his collarbone. An old wound but not forgotten. He traced it lightly. This time, he murmured, I won't leave alone. The sea roared below as if answering. No one yet knew, not Elena kneeling in the garden, not Marcus tightening his grip on control, that Adrian carried something far heavier than longing. A secret, one that could destroy all 3 of them. And in 3 days when the storm arrived, the house on the cliff would not be standing. But for now the air hummed with anticipation, with hunger, with the electric thrill of unfinished stories. The triangle had slept for 2 years. Chapter 2. The house on the cliff. The house had been built to withstand storms, but not the kind that walked on 2 legs. It perched on the cliff like a dare, white walls weathered by salt, shutters faded to the soft blue of old bruises. From the village below it looked peaceful, almost romantic, the kind of place poets imagine dying in. But inside the air held a tension so taut it could snap with a whisper. Elena felt it the moment she stepped through the back door, wiping soil from her hands onto her apron. The house seemed to sense her unease. The floorboards creaked differently, the walls exhaled colder. Marcus did not turn when she entered. He stood at the window, back rigid, shoulders drawn so tightly it seemed they might splinter. You saw him, he said. Not a question. A verdict. Elena removed the apron slowly, folding it with a care that felt borrowed from another version of herself, calm, compliant, composed. Her voice when it came was soft but steady. Yes. Marcus's fingers tapped against the window pane, a controlled rhythm masking the tremor beneath. He shouldn't have come back. There were 100 responses she could have given. He has the right. It's been 2 years. We all knew this day might come. Instead, she said nothing. Silence was safer. Silence had become their shared language. Marcus finally turned, his eyes sharp, searching her face for something. Fear, longing, guilt. She lowered her gaze before he could find anything. Whatever unfinished fantasy he thinks he can revive, Marcus said, moving toward the table. It ends before it begins. There was steel in his tone, but beneath it she heard something else. Not jealousy, not anger, fear. The kettle whistled, shrill and insistent. Elena moved to lift it, grateful for the excuse to turn away. Steam curled around her face, dampening her lashes. She tried to steady her breath. Adrian was back. The world tilted with that simple truth. Memories she had buried beneath routine clawed their way upward. Laughter in the garden, whispered vows, the warmth of his hands around hers, the night that ended it all. The letter. The blood. The storm. She gripped the teacup until her knuckles whitened. Marcus noticed. Elena. His voice softened, but not out of tenderness, out of strategy. Look at me. She obeyed. He stepped closer, lifting her chin gently with 2 fingers, his touch deceptively delicate. You made your choice, he said. She searched his eyes, trying to find the man she had once admired, once trusted. But all she saw was the reflection of her own uncertainty. I know, she whispered. But the words tasted like ash. From the terrace, the sea stretched endless and merciless. Elena stepped outside with her cup, needing air. Wind tangled her hair and tugged at her dress as gulls wheeled overhead. She closed her eyes. For a moment she imagined she was 17 again, barefoot on these stones, waiting for a boy who swore the world could be theirs. Elena. Her eyes snapped open. Adrian stood at the far end of the terrace. He looked older, harder around the edges, but his presence struck her with the same force as the first time she had seen him in the harbor years ago. She froze. He did not approach immediately. He let the moment stretch, letting her feel the weight of his return. You look just as I remembered, he said softly. The compliment cut more than it flattered. You shouldn't be here, she managed. His smile was bruised. Funny. That's what everyone said when I left. She swallowed, unable to look away from him. What do you want, Adrian? His gaze flicked toward the house windows like watching eyes. Only what was taken from me. Her pulse stumbled. He stepped closer, stopping just within the boundary where she would have to move back, or let him remain. She didn't move. Elena, he murmured, voice low. Did you ever wonder why I disappeared without a word? Why I left everything behind? Her breath caught. He leaned in, the wind carrying his words directly to her ear. I didn't leave you. A chill swept through her. Before she could respond, the terrace door slammed open. Marcus. His expression was calm, but his eyes were wildfire behind glass. How touching, he said, stepping forward. Reunions always bring out the worst taste. Adrian's posture shifted, subtle but unmistakable. A predator assessing another. Marcus. Adrian. The wind seemed to still between them. 2 storms meeting. Elena stood trapped in the center, heart pounding so loudly she feared they both could hear it. Marcus slipped an arm around her waist, possessive, claiming. Adrian's jaw tightened. This house, Marcus said quietly, is not open to you. Adrian's reply was almost a whisper. It will be. He turned and walked away, footsteps steady, unhurried, as if he owned the ground beneath him. Marcus watched him go, fingers digging into Elena's waist. He will not destroy what we built, he murmured. Elena stared after Adrian, her pulse still racing. But the words that echoed inside her were not Marcus's. I didn't leave you. Inside, the house groaned as the wind shifted. Old wood, old memories, old lies. Somewhere within its walls, something settled. And something else began to crack. Chapter through the promise. The night Adrian left had never truly ended. It lived in Elena's memory like a wound that refused to scar, reopening whenever the sea grew restless or the wind struck the shutters in that particular staccato rhythm. She had learned to move through life around it the way one avoids touching a bruise, carefully, subconsciously, constantly. But that afternoon, as she stood alone in the quiet parlor with the echo of Adrian's words still trembling inside her, "I didn't leave you." The bruise flared, vivid and aching. She pressed a hand to the sideboard to steady herself. Why had he said that? What could he possibly mean? The official story had been simple, brutal, and accepted. Adrian fled the night the boats crashed. The night Marcus found him with that letter. The night Elena waited but he never arrived. Shame had driven him away, everyone said. Cowardice. Guilt. But now uncertainty seeped into the cracks of her certainty like rising tide. Marcus's footsteps approached, measured and controlled. Elena straightened instinctively, as she always did when his presence entered a room. "We need to talk," he said. The phrase usually preceded rules, not conversations. She turned. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, gaze sharp but unreadable. "About him," he clarified. Her pulse jumped. "Marcus." "No lies, Elena." His tone held no anger. That was always more frightening than when it did. He stepped closer, voice low. "I know what he told you." Her breath caught. "You were listening?" "I don't need to listen to know how he thinks." A faint cold smile. Adrian has always relied on emotional chaos. It's his only currency. She looked away. Marcus continued. "He left. He abandoned you. He abandoned everything. That is the truth." She wanted to believe him. God, she had tried for 2 years to believe him. Marcus reached out, brushing a stray curl from her cheek with tenderness so precise it felt calculated. "I saved you from that," he murmured. "From being dragged down with him." Saved. The word echoed strangely. She stepped back. "I need some air." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "As you wish." "But Elena." His eyes pinned her in place. "Do not let him rewrite history." His voice softened dangerously. "Don't let him take you from me again." Again. The word struck her like a slap. Because he had taken her once. Because she had gone willingly. Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain and distant storms. Elena descended the stone steps toward the lower garden, the path she used when she needed to think, or to remember. Ivy clung to the wall, wild and untrimmed, the way Adrian had once insisted it should remain. "Let some things grow freely," he had said, laughing, pulling her toward him beneath the moonlight. She blinked the memory away. But memories had no mercy. 2 years earlier, the harbor lanterns flickered in the wind, casting trembling reflections across the water. The boats rocked uneasily, as though sensing the impending storm long before the skies darkened. Elena stood on the pier, cloak wrapped tightly around her, heart pounding with a reckless, breathless hope. She clutched a folded letter against her chest. Adrian's letter. "Meet me at midnight. We will leave together. No one will stop us." She had waited for that moment for months. Whispers of escape, of freedom, of a life not dictated by family expectations or Marcus's plans or the suffocating etiquette of the village. Midnight passed. Then half past. The storm rolled in, wind snarling through the rigging, waves crashing harder against the rocks. But she stayed. Because Adrian had promised. He always kept his promises. The bells had begun to ring out of nowhere, urgent, panicked, and lanterns flared across the waterfront. Voices shouted. A boat smashed against the breakwater wood, splintering like bone. Someone screamed. And then she saw him. Adrian running along the dock, coat soaked, blood streaking down his collarbone. "Elena!" He reached her, grabbed her shoulders, breath ragged. "We have to go," he urged. "Now." "What happened?" she cried. "Adrian, your blood." "It's nothing." His eyes were wild. "We don't have time. Do you trust me?" "Yes," she whispered. It had been the truest thing she'd ever said. He pulled her forward, and then a hand seized her arm, yanking her backward. "Marcus." His face pale with fury and something else, fear, desperation. "You're not going anywhere with him," Marcus spat. Elena struggled. Marcus let go. Adrian stepped between them, but Marcus held fast. "She doesn't know," Marcus hissed. "Tell her, Adrian. Tell her what you've done." Adrian's expression shifted, shock, realization, then rage. "You," he breathed. "You did this." Lightning split the sky. The wind howled. And then, the memory fractured. Because she had never heard what he meant. The storm had swallowed the words. A crowd had surged between them. The boats had crashed again. Someone had fallen. Everything dissolved into chaos. When the storm cleared, Adrian was gone. And Marcus was the one who found her, held her, guided her home, and told her that Adrian had fled the village in disgrace. Now in the present, Elena pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. What had Adrian meant? What had Marcus meant? Which of them had spoken the truth that night? As she turned back toward the house, her foot struck something half buried in the soil near the ivy. A metal corner. She knelt, brushing earth aside until an object emerged. A rusted tin box. Her heartbeat quickened. She pried it open. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, lay papers. Ink smudged but legible. A signature. A seal. Her stomach dropped. It was Marcus's handwriting. And below it, Adrian's. A contract. A transfer. Something that should never have been signed. Her hands shook. The last page held a date. The night Adrian disappeared. Wind whipped through the garden, slamming the shutters above like warning shots. Elena stared at the document, cold realization creeping into her bones. Someone had lied. Someone had betrayed them both. And whatever this contract meant, it was powerful enough to ruin a life. Maybe more than one. From the terrace above, unseen, a shadow moved. Watching. Waiting. Chapter 4: Salt and Blood. The village rarely smelled of blood. Fish, yes. Brine, always. But blood, real blood, belonged to stories whispered about shipwrecks and old feuds. Not to quiet Tuesday afternoons when laundry billowed from balconies and fishermen repaired nets in the sun. That was why the scream froze everyone. It sliced across the harbor with a rawness that made gulls scatter and children fall silent mid-play. Elena, halfway up the garden steps, felt the sound vibrate through her ribs. Then came shouting, running footsteps, the unmistakable ring of alarm. She clutched the railing. Not again. Not like the night Adrian vanished. On the harbor pier, chaos unfolded. A fishing boat had slammed crookedly against the mooring posts, hull scraped and bleeding wood fibers into the water. A man lay sprawled across the planks, clutching his leg, crimson spreading rapidly through torn fabric. The villagers crowded in, voices overlapping. Sabotage. No, an accident. The ropes were cut, look. The word cut carried like gunpowder. 2 frayed lines dangled from the cleats, ends unnaturally clean. Not worn. Not snapped. Severed. And there, standing near the edge of the pier, calm amidst the panic, was Adrian. His coat whipped in the wind, hair damp from sea spray. He watched the scene with an unsettling stillness, as though he had expected it. Several villagers followed the direction of Elena's gaze. Their whispers sharpened. Of course he shows up the day trouble starts. Bad luck, that one. He brings storms. Adrian's eyes flicked toward them, cold, assessing, amused. Not helping. Not intervening. Simply watching. Elena reached the pier just as a trail of blood slithered toward her shoes, thin as a thread but vivid enough to make her stomach lurch. The injured fisherman, Matteo, a man who had once taught her to tie sailing knots, groaned as another villager pressed fabric to the wound. He went overboard, someone said breathlessly. If we hadn't pulled him out. Who cut the lines? Another demanded. Silence. Then all eyes drifted, almost involuntarily, to Adrian. He smiled faintly. I arrived after the damage, he said, voice smooth. But if you'd like to accuse me properly, I suggest you gather proof first. The tone was wrong. Too controlled. Too sharp. Elena felt a chill climb her spine. This was not the boy who had whispered dreams under fig branches. This was a man forged by something darker. Marcus arrived moments later, coat still buttoned, expression composed. But his gaze burned when it landed on Adrian. What did you do? Adrian's reply was almost gentle. I watched your village tear itself open. Marcus stepped forward, fists clenched. Stay away from Elena. Stay away from this harbor. You don't belong here anymore. Adrian tilted his head. Interesting choice of words, considering you once begged me to stay. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Marcus's face drained of color. Elena stared between them. Begged? Marcus had always claimed he wanted Adrian gone. that he had pushed him out to protect her. But now, another crack in the story. A sudden shout drew their attention. Blood in the water. Elena looked down. Red tendrils swirled through the harbor, carried by the tide, too bright, too much to belong only to Mateo's leg. Her breath tightened. Something else had bled. Or someone. Villagers leaned over the edge, scanning the churning waves. Another body? No, look, wood. A shattered plank surfaced, then another. Pieces of a small rowboat. The same kind the lovers used to meet the night Adrian vanished. Elena's heart slammed painfully. Was this a coincidence? Or a message? Her gaze darted to Adrian. His expression remained unreadable. But his eyes flicked toward her for the briefest moment, and in them she saw something terrifying. Recognition. He knew that boat. He knew exactly what it meant. The crowd surged around Mateo, lifting him toward the clinic. Elena moved aside, mind racing, pulse wild. Marcus caught her arm. Elena, come home. She looked up at him. Usually his grip anchored her. Now it felt like a restraint. Marcus. Her voice trembled. That boat. Coincidence, he said quickly. Too quickly. Storm remnants. Nothing more. But the ropes. Accidents happen. His tone snapped, sharp enough to cut. He realized it immediately, softening. Elena, please. You're shaken. We should go. He reached for her again. But her attention shifted past him. To Adrian, who was watching her with an intensity that felt like gravity. He mouthed something. One word. A warning. Careful. Her breath faltered. Marcus followed her gaze, jaw tightening. He stepped between them, blocking her view. Elena, he whispered, voice low and dangerous. Whatever he says, whatever he suggests, do not trust him. His fingers dug into her arm, and for the first time she wondered, was he warning her? Or warning himself? A wave crashed hard against the pier, spraying them all with cold salt water. The villagers flinched. But something else caught Elena's eye. As the water receded, sunlight glinted off metal wedged between the boards. She crouched, reaching out. Marcus grabbed her wrist. Don't. Too late. Her fingers brushed it. A knife blade. Clean cut. Not rusted. Not old. Recently used. Her breath stopped. Marcus's grip tightened painfully. Leave it. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Why? His expression hardened. Because I said so. He pulled her upright, tugging her away from the harbor. Behind them, the water lapped gently, as though it had not just revealed something damning. As though it had not tasted blood. Adrian watched them go, hands in his pockets, wind teasing the edges of his coat. When they were out of earshot, he exhaled slowly. So, he murmured, turning his gaze back to the broken boat fragments drifting toward the open sea. You finally show your hand. His smile was thin and dangerous. This time, Marcus, you won't be the only one bleeding. High above, the house on the cliff stood silent, windows like dark eyes staring down at the harbor. But inside its walls, a floorboard shifted, a latch clicked, and something that had long been hidden. Chapter 5. The letter. The house smelled of salt and iron when Elena returned. Not the gentle scent of sea breeze, but the sharper metallic tang that clung to storm lanterns and old wounds. She paused just inside the doorway, fingers brushing the wood, sensing the shift. The house had moods. Today it felt watchful. Marcus shut the door behind them with more force than necessary. The latch clicked like a lock sliding into place. You shouldn't have touched that knife, he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Elena turned to him. It was evidence. It was debris, Marcus countered. Harbor trash. You're letting Adrian manipulate you. The accusation stung. I'm not. He thrives on chaos, Marcus pressed, stepping closer. He always has. He wants you uncertain. He wants you questioning. That's how he gets inside. His intensity pinned her in place. And yet, why did you stop me? She asked softly. Why were you afraid of me holding it? Marcus blinked. Just once. So you don't cut yourself, he said. But the answer felt rehearsed. Polished. Wrong. He moved past her into his study, the only room she rarely entered, though she had never fully understood why. The door remained half open, and she caught a glimpse of him rifling through papers, movements abrupt, controlled, searching for something, or checking if something was missing. Her pulse quickened. The rusted tin box in the garden. The signatures. The date. Was that what he feared? Elena backed away silently, heart pounding. If the contract she found meant what she suspected, Marcus and Adrian had once been allies, partners, bound by something powerful enough to shatter both of them. But what? She slipped upstairs, needing space to think. The hallway felt colder than usual, shadows stretching long and thin along the walls. When she reached her room, she closed the door gently behind her and leaned against it. Her fingers itched for the tin box she had hidden beneath loose floorboards earlier, but another thought tugged at her. The wardrobe. Specifically, the false back panel Marcus had installed after they married, claiming it was for winter linens. She had never questioned it. Now she did. She crossed the room, adrenaline prickling beneath her skin, and eased the wardrobe open. Clothes brushed her arms as she reached toward the panel. Her fingers found the edge. And something shifted. A breath. Not a sound, not a movement. A sense. As though the house itself inhaled. She froze. Then pushed. The panel slid aside with a soft scrape. Behind it lay a narrow recess, dark and dusted with neglect. And inside, a letter. Sealed. Unopened. Her heart lurched. She recognized the handwriting instantly. Adrian's. The world tilted. Why was it here? Why had Marcus hidden it? How long had it sat in silence while her life twisted around its absence? Her hands shook as she reached for it. The seal cracked. The paper trembled open. She read, "Elena, if you are reading this, something has gone wrong. I did not leave you. I was taken. You must not trust Marcus. He is not what he pretends to be. There is a document. He will do anything to destroy it. Do not let him. Meet me where we first promised freedom. Midnight. Do not come alone." A tear blurred the ink. The next line struck like a knife. "I love you. I never stopped." Elena's breath fractured. The letter trembled in her grip. Taken. Not left. Everything she had believed for 2 years, every humiliation, every whispered judgment, every night she cried herself hollow, had been built on a lie. Her knees weakened, and she sank onto the edge of the bed, the letter clutched against her chest. Why hadn't she received it? Why had Marcus kept it? Her thoughts spiraled, jagged, breathless. He told her Adrian abandoned her. He told everyone Adrian fled in disgrace. He had comforted her, held her, married her. Knowing this letter existed, knowing she would have gone to Adrian, the room swayed. Had Marcus saved her? Or stolen her? A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Elena jolted, stuffing the letter beneath her skirt just as the door opened. Marcus stood there. His expression neutral. Too neutral. "Elena," he said quietly, "what are you doing?" Her heart hammered. Nothing. He stepped inside, eyes scanning the room with the precision of a man taking inventory. When his gaze reached the wardrobe, something flickered across his face. Gone in an instant but unmistakable. He knew. He knew exactly what she had found. "Elena," he said softly, approaching her, "I need you to trust me." His hand reached for hers. She pulled back. The smallest movement. But enough. Marcus froze. Then his expression shifted, not anger. Resignation. "As you wish," he murmured. He turned and left the room, closing the door behind him. The lock slid. On the outside, Elena stared at the door, pulse thundering. He had locked her in. Downstairs, Marcus leaned against the wall, eyes closed, his breathing uneven. He whispered to himself, voice low and strained, "I can't lose her again." Across the village, in a rented room above the tavern, Adrian sat at a small wooden table, staring at an identical letter, creased, weathered, edges burned as though someone had tried to destroy it. His fingers traced the missing section, the part that had been torn away. He exhaled. "Elena," he whispered. "What did he tell you?" A knock sounded at his door. 3 slow taps. He stiffened. Only one person used that rhythm. He opened the door. A figure slipped inside, hood low, voice barely a breath. "He knows you're back. And he's not going to let her go." Adrian's jaw clenched. He already took everything from me once. The figure handed him something small and wrapped in cloth. He's preparing to do it again. Adrian unwrapped it and stared. A key. Old. Iron. Familiar. His pulse surged. Elena. In the locked bedroom, Elena unfolded the letter again, tears blurring the ink. Her lips moved around the words she had never received. I didn't leave you. She closed her eyes. At midnight she would have a choice. Freedom, truth, or another lie. Outside, thunder rolled over the sea. The storm was coming. And this time it would not be nature that tore the village apart.